have a question for you. Tonight is all about you. Have you ever been so hurt, so blindsided by betrayal that you just could not stop thinking about making them pay? Maybe someone cheated, lied, or ruined your reputation. And no matter what, no matter your hardest efforts, you just could not let it go. That feeling, revenge, burns like a fire in your veins. It feels powerful, even righteous. But what if it's more than just a feeling? What if your brain actually gets hooked on it? The more you feed it, the harder it is to stop. Well, tonight, my good friend, Dr. James Kimmel, reveals that revenge actually lights up your brain just like it would light up if you were taking cocaine. In his new book, The Science of Revenge, Understanding the World's Deadliest Addiction and How to Overcome It, he explains how we get trapped in a revenge loop, reliving the pain again and again. Our guest tonight, Kevin, says that is exactly how he feels, trapped. After discovering his wife's affair, he sued her lover for breaking up his family, and he won a lot of money. But 7 years later, divorced, Kevin says he still feels stuck. So the big question is, how does Kevin, or how do you break free? Well, Kevin, thank you for being here. Dr. Kimmel, it's good to see you again, and thank you for being here.
Thank you as well.
You and I have talked about this before, but I want everybody to understand that what we're talking about here is what may start as an emotion, but the longer they hold on to it, the longer they embrace it, the longer they invest in it, this actually impacts the brain.
That's correct. And it could go so far as to manifest into an addictive-like experience. And this is because what happens when you've been wronged or feel wounded, humiliated, betrayed, shamed, any of these serious psychological harms register as real pain inside your brain, and that activates the pain network called the anterior insula area of your brain. And your brain doesn't like pain. It wants the pain to stop. It wants it to go away. And one of the ways we've been wired to deal with that, and your brain will seek to rebalance itself by seeking pleasure through a dopamine release. And it can get that by beginning to think about, fantasize about, and then potentially go out and seek revenge, which is to say to punish the person who wronged you, or to put it another way, to inflict pain upon the person who wronged you. And that infliction of pain is very pleasurable, and it releases dopamine inside the same circuitry that operates for addiction.
Okay, so that doesn't do anything for the person other than it gives them a high for a minute, but that doesn't do anything for them. They don't get anything out of it. They don't physical reward. They don't get any money. They don't take over their place in the world. Nothing happens except inside their brain, but that doesn't last very long.
That's right. It's a temporary high, like drug and alcohol highs are temporary highs. It usually then, when it goes away, leaves you left feeling worse but wanting more.
Everybody gets hurt. Nobody goes through life without getting hurt. And, some people, they get hurt and they let it go. It gets past. But for some people, for a lot of people, it's hard to let go of. One of the biggest genres in Hollywood are revenge movies. You see like Death Wish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We see all of these. And is that part of it? Do people live vicariously through getting even?
It is. And now the multi-billion-dollar franchises are often superhero films, and those are all also revenge plots, right? The superhero is going to get revenge against the supervillain. And we as an audience go through a journey of experiencing everything we just described. So we're wounded at first. The hero in the movie is often perceived to be a victim, and we identify with that victimization, which is usually very unfair. This starts the audience craving revenge. We want to see the superhero go and finally vanquish the villain for our pleasure. And we get this huge dopamine hit near the end of the movie when the villain inevitably is conquered, destroyed, burned, blown up, killed, whatever it is. Those things are extremely pleasurable. And so in that sense, Hollywood is selling a very addictive drug.
And Kevin, you were telling us that you were afflicted by this. You suffered with this for a long time, right? Because
Yes, sir.
you were cheated on in your marriage. You sued in your state. There's a law about alienation of affection.
That's correct.
And this ate you up for a long time.
Yes, and it still continues.
Right.
But after meeting with Dr. Kimmel, I'm feeling a lot better.
Yeah. Now, Kevin's story of heartbreak took a new turn today, not in a traditional courtroom, but in an unusual one led by Dr. Kimmel. Instead of seeking revenge, Dr. Kimmel invited Kevin into his miracle court, a space designed to move people from pain to peace. And we're going to really dig into this. But listen, this is something I really want you to pay attention to. But before Dr. Kimmel can take Kevin through his process, we need to understand the real depth of his pain. Take a look.
Kevin, please tell the court how your ex-wife harmed you.
I was married for 12 years. My ex-wife decided to have an extramarital affair and damaged our family, particularly our kids. I was betrayed by my wife, and who I thought was a friend of hers and was becoming a friend of mine. I learned later that he was able to convince her that she deserved better and that she needed to leave.
Can you tell the court how this specifically made you feel?
It shook me to my core, actually. My core values. It was very sharp, like a knife. I began to not trust anyone, and I mean anyone. I started to suspect everyone was out to get me. It became harder to live life without just feeling like around every corner it was a trap, or that anything I did might not be good enough. So I became angry, and I wanted revenge. I wanted vengeance. I wanted justice. I wanted justice.
All right, now we're going to get more into what setting we were in there in a minute and why, but how did you first learn about the affair, and what was your initial reaction?
I first learned about the affair when she asked for a divorce at first on her false pretenses, and it just didn't sit right. And one night, her computer was open. I looked, and it was open to an email address I didn't recognize. I checked the inbox, it was empty. Outbox was empty. Deleted box was empty. To which I saw a hyperlink, restore deleted emails. And when I did that, there it was, as plain as day. I had been out with the kids that day, and they were having a whole conversation back and forth about how they had gotten together. And physically that day, while I was out with the kids and laughing about me having questions about how we were going to move forward with our divorce, how we were going to move forward with finances, and they were just back and forth as you read it. They're just making light of my feelings and my hurt and trying to deal with the situation.
So you weren't only betrayed, they were mocking you and making fun.
Correct.
And that hurt as in addition to being betrayed.
It's nothing like reading it in black and white. It's one thing to hear it from someone, but to see it right there in front of you.
All right. And so this divorce went through, but then you filed a suit against the interloper for alienation of affection.
Correct.
You've heard me talk about Jace Medical. If not, listen up, because they're doing incredible work in medical preparedness. And today, I've got two major updates to share. First up, the ivermectin use case. You've probably seen the headlines calling it a wonder drug. The scientist who discovered it even won a Nobel Prize, and now Jace is offering a 30-day supply at the best price you'll find anywhere. Next, the upgraded Jace case, an emergency supply of antibiotics delivered to your door. They've doubled the number of medications to 10 at just $20 more. And now, the most comprehensive and affordable kit available. Get it before you need it. Don't wait, order today. Visit jace.com and use code PHIL at checkout for a special discount. That's JASE.com, code PHIL.
Kevin's story made national headlines: a betrayed husband, a hometown scandal, and a courtroom win that should have brought him closure. But even after justice was served, Kevin says he just didn't feel free. He felt stuck. Listen, this is obviously very painful. It was very emotional for you. And what we just saw a minute ago was the beginning of what you refer to as miracle court. And this can happen anywhere, but for illustrative purposes, we actually had you go to a courtroom setting just so it kind of, it illustrates it for people. And this is a 5-step process. You used to have 7 or 9 steps, as I recall, but you've condensed this into 5. And what we saw was the prosecution part of this, right? He was stating his case. But there are 4 other steps, right? Talk about those.
That's correct. So this follows just the normal trial process that we've probably all either experienced in our own lives or seen on television or in a movie. So we move from the victim testifying what happened to the victim now playing themselves the role of the defendant. So Kevin moves from being the victim to being his wife and the man who Kevin believes and experienced has betrayed their marriage and destroyed their marriage. And then from that point forward, Kevin becomes the judge in the case and plays the actual role of judge, deciding guilt and innocence in a sentence. And then after that moves into the role of being the warden, administering that sentence, and finally, the judge of his own life.
All right, and let's take a look at that second part, which is the defense, and this is a role reversal. So with Dr. Kimmel's help, Kevin is doing something new, hearing the story from a different point of view. Take a look.
So Kevin, now please close your eyes and pretend that you are your ex-wife and you are going to be testifying as she would.
I've been very unhappy for a very long time, and I've tried to communicate with my husband that I wasn't happy. And while I was upset and lonely, I met this man, and I believed everything he said about how my life could be so much better with him. I believe that Kevin is not the man that I want to be with.
Do you plead guilty or not guilty?
I plead guilty.
All right, now Kevin, please pretend now that you are your ex-wife's lover.
As we spent time together, I noticed that she was not happy, and I believe that I could be the man that she's been searching for. And I think that I will do my best to convince her that I could be the man that she needs and wants in her life.
What does he say about the effect on the children?
I don't care what effect it has on the children. I just spend my time with her and hope the kids stay out of the room.
Do you plead guilty or innocent to the charges against you?
I plead innocent.
Dr. Kimmel, you say you were happy to use Kevin as an example because men just don't show emotion near as much. And, we've been socialized that big boys don't cry, so they are more prone to seek revenge.
Men are more prone to seek revenge, although women feel this urge as well. But the primary difference that research shows between men and women so far is that when seeking revenge, and getting what they sought. Men will continue driving through that despite the pain that is being expressed by the target of that revenge, and what we see inside the brain is that the male brain, the empathy center, stays dull. For women, the empathy center is still active, and so they can feel and empathize with the target of revenge in a way that men actually physically cannot at a brain biological level. And this may explain why men go much further and are the primary instigators of, revenge-driven violence and behavior.
I want to take a look at one of the patterns that we see here. We've got a graphic for this, and it kind of shows what the cycle is. And it's the addiction cycle, because there's harm, which we've talked about, and then that leads to pain. And then the pain leads to the revenge fantasy. And then even from thinking about it, there is a dopamine release, which gives you temporary relief.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like rinse, repeat. It just starts back over, but then you start needing more to get the dopamine release. So it starts getting worse and worse. Pretty soon it's not enough to just think about it. Now you got to start doing something about it.
That's right.
Yeah, that's where it gets to be a problem. But you say the revenge, it doesn't do anything to actually heal. It never actually moves forward. It doesn't progress. The pain gets worse, not better, even though there's a short release.
That's right. It's a temporary high, in effect, that leaves you, feeling worse but wanting more. And for some people, now we think people who try drugs and alcohol, about 20% of those people move on to addiction. 80% don't. So not everyone that has purely natural revenge desires, because that's something that it's an adaptive strategy we developed through evolution, maybe from the Ice Age forward. So there's nothing wrong with feeling revenge. That's natural. It's when it moves into this addictive state where you can't control it despite the negative consequences. And with revenge seeking, almost always there are negative consequences. It's rarely that there aren't. And what we see in addiction is that, and we see this with revenge seeking as well, in the addictive stage, is that prefrontal cortex of your brain, that's your decision-making, executive function, cost and benefit analysis part of your brain, that remains dull. In addiction, it's not active. It's been hijacked.
When your credit isn't perfect, it can really feel like the system is stacked against you. Kickoff gives you the tools to build credit fast. With affordable plans starting at $5 per month, no hidden fees, and 0 interest, Kickoff helps you score big when it comes to credit. Make payments on time and your credit can grow fast. Users with credit under 600 grew an average of 84 points in their first year. With over 1 million users, there's a reason why Kickoff is the #1 credit builder app. Start building credit with Kickoff today and get your first month for as little as $1. That's 80% off the normal price when you go to getkickoff.com/Phil today. That's Kickoff without the C. Get KIKOFF.com/Phil.
Must sign up via getkickoff.com/Phil to activate offer. Offer applies to new Kickoff customers first month only. Subject to approval. Offer subject to change. Average first year credit score impacted plus 84 points. Vantage score 3.0. Between January of 2023 and January of 2024. For Kickoff credit count users who started with a score below 600, who paid on time, and who had no delinquencies or collections added to their credit profile during the period. Late payments may negatively impact your credit score. Individual results may vary.
Now, Kevin's story is not unique. Across social media, people share revenge tales, exposing cheaters, confronting exes, and taking extreme measures for justice. Many seek payback, but end up more broken than ever before. Now, think about this. Think about your own life right now. You got a chip on your shoulder towards somebody. Maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's somebody that bullied you in school, and you become a prisoner to this. Now, it doesn't get pathological for everybody, as Dr. Kimmel points out, but for a material percentage of people, it does. Are you in that group? Think about that. Just take a second to think about it. Is this something that eats away at you? And if it does, this really matters, what we're talking about today. this can change your life if you listen to it. Dr. James Kimmel says that's no accident. In his new book, The Science of Revenge, Understanding the World's Deadliest Addiction and How to Overcome It, he explains that revenge activates the same brain chemicals as addiction. And once you start, it's very hard to stop. Now, we have a graphic that parallels these two, and I want to look at this real quickly. We don't need to dwell on it too much because I'll glaze people's eyes over too much, but this is revenge addiction versus substance abuse similarities, and we put them side by side here where you can see them. It's controlled substance addictions. They can't stop despite the harm, and it's the same thing with revenge. They can't stop despite the harm. And when you come to time, substance addiction is seeking recovery. They're using and seeking recovery. And with revenge, they're planning, inflicting, and recovering. And cravings, there's an urge to use. And with revenge, there's an urge to retaliate, right? And then life impact. With substance, they neglect relationships because they're so focused on getting the fix. And with revenge addiction, there's strained or ruined relationships. With risk, on the substance side, there's dangerous and illegal acts. And on the revenge side, there's risky revenge actions and sometimes violence. So on both sides, it's terrible. There's isolation, social withdrawal on both sides, and tolerance. There's need for more to get the effect. On the revenge side, it's escalating. It goes up all the time. Tolerance, there's need for more, a drug, and escalating revenge behavior. Withdrawal, on the substance addiction side, the physical, mental symptoms. Revenge addiction is emotional distress. It just keeps going. Both of them, it's kind of self-inflicted wounds all the way through. Did you ever notice, as you were feeling this revenge loop that you were in, did you notice this was eating away at you?
In the beginning, it was obvious it was eating at me. I thought I had dealt with it, thought I had moved on over the last 5 years. No, I didn't notice it. Didn't notice it after once we were through the initial court cases and custody and then the alienation case. I thought life would return to what I believed to be normal and seemed to.
Mm-hmm.
But after meeting Dr. Kimmel and participating in his program, I was made aware that I was probably bearing more than I had actually dealt with.
You know, I've said this before, but there were times when I was in private practice that I dealt with people that never knew they were depressed until they weren't. You know, until it lifted and they went, "Oh, wow. The sky's blue. I can hear music again." It's like they never knew. They just kind of adapted to it and thought, this is the way you live. And this excites me so much that you can lift this veil from people where they don't realize that they're in this terrible loop that robs them of so much joy and robs them of so much that they can share. And when you're in a parent position, you know, your children aren't getting 100% of dad. Your body is a system, and when it's running right, you feel focused, energized, in flow, but sometimes we struggle to find that flow state. Why? Because there's too much static in our system, brain fog, fatigue, and inflammation. The Echo Flask clears the static by infusing your water with molecular hydrogen, a natural science-backed gas that helps your body think sharper, recover faster, and run smoother. This is more than hydration. It's better focus, more energy, faster recovery, less internal stress, and longer-term benefits that keep you sharp. When your water works harder, your whole system does too. Find your flow state with the Echo Flask hydrogen water bottle and get an unlimited supply of hydrogen water at home and on the go. Visit echowater.com/Phil and use code Phil for 10% off. That's echowater.com/Phil. Enter code Phil to save 10%. Well, Dr. James Kimmel Jr. is a lawyer. He's a lecturer in psychology at the Yale School of Medicine, And he has devoted so much of his work and life to the study of addiction. And he is the author of The Science of Revenge. And we're talking about it today. He and I have talked about this now for a number of years, right? We've been digging into this because he's got me hooked. I absolutely think this is an answer to so much of the divisiveness that's going on in America today. And when you look back historically, it explains some of the worst things that have happened in world history. It explains why so many of our worst leaders and killers have done some of the things that they've done in history. And it breaks down to everyday people in life. And we've been talking with Kevin here, and Kevin, after reliving the betrayal and hearing from both sides and working through the pain with Dr. Kimmel, now faces a pivotal moment in this miracle court. And this is where he decides what charges does he bring and who does he hold responsible. And one of the things I want to point out is Kevin has shown real courage here, because when you have to do role playing and you have to do role reversal, it takes real courage to not just set up a paper tiger when you flip roles, but instead to make an honest effort to try to represent their point of view instead of being sarcastic and superficial and not really try to see things through their point of view. And you didn't do that. You really tried to think through the other person's point of view. Not that you agreed with it, but to give an earnest argument on their side. And the more you put into this, the more you get out of it. And I thought you were really candid and earnest in your arguments and representation of it. That had to be painful.
I appreciate you saying that. It was harder than I thought it was going to be. And I felt like I needed to be honest with myself in order for this to work, to help me. I want to feel better, and I need to be honest.
Well, it showed, and let's take a look at the next phase.
Kevin, what are the charges that you hold against your ex-wife? And do you find her guilty or not guilty of those charges?
My ex-wife will be charged with infidelity. She'll be charged with her untruthfulness to maintain the marriage, and charged with not doing what's best for her and her children.
And do you find her guilty or not guilty of those charges?
I would find her guilty of being untruthful and unfaithful and not doing what's best for her family and her children. But I would find her not guilty for attempting to be the best mother she could be.
So as to her lover, what are the charges that you're considering for him?
He would be charged with willfully and knowingly breaking up our family. He would be charged with conspiracy to move forward in a manner that had no consideration on the effects it would have on the children, and also charge him with willful misconduct. And I would find him guilty on all three.
You found her not guilty of one charge. Why?
Over the years, initially it was so much anger and that want for revenge, justice, and for my children. Everything I've done is for my children. And what I've discovered is I believe through her lens that she was doing what was best for her children in some ways. Even though we rarely agree, I believe there's a place in the home it should be for the mother and the father. I never asked for more than 50-50 custody for that reason. But it took me a while to get there. Mm-hmm. But I do believe she loves our children. I believe she tries to do what she believes to be best. And the decision she made that broke up our family and broke up our marriage, I don't believe it was done to better the children's lives or hurt the children's lives. I think it was very little thought in it.
Is she with this person now in a relationship?
I believe she is.